Hi everyone, welcome back to Window Chats with Robyn, the Instagram Live podcast where I sit by my window and chat with very interesting people. Today's guest is Katie Uhlmann. I'm so excited. We actually haven't had like a real in-person conversation, and I think the best time to talk to people is on Instagram Live, apparently. Seems to be my MO. And I see you here. Okay, I'm inviting you in. Won't it work? The suspense is killing me. Oh my God, it's never worked this easily. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
You look adorable. Oh my gosh.
Thank you. You too.
This is the vibe. Look at the green, the beautiful smile. Are you happy with the framing? I think it looks delightful.
I love it. It looks great.
Okay. Oh my gosh, thanks for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. How's your TIFF season going?
It's good. I was out of town, but I'm back now and I've been doing some things, and yeah, it's been nice. It's always good to see familiar faces.
Cool.
And
me.
Yeah.
Oh no. See, this is what happens. It cuts you off. So someone like me that likes to talk over other people, it doesn't work. So okay, we're good.
Look at all these people joining. Hi, everyone.
Have you done an Instagram Live before?
I don't think I ever have.
Oh my God, this is so exciting. So a couple things to know. The comments, if comments are being written, they will be delayed, and sometimes it's funny and sometimes it's confusing, but there's just so much excitement in that, I like to think.
Okay,
So,
perfect.
there you go.
Love it.
I was trying to remember how I first reached out to you, and I like to share my internal thoughts, so you're going to be part of this. Get excited. And I know I've seen you at like Men Casting or even at like what's it called, Milestones, and I just see you there, but I don't know if we've had this conversation or I've had the pleasure, and I'm very excited.
Great. Yeah, I've worked in casting for 7 years.
Whoa.
Like part-time kind of thing when I'm not acting or directing or whatever, which is amazing. It's such a great, thing to do, and such a nice community.
How did you get that gig, out of curiosity?
I got it through, I initially started working with a casting director. Her name is Jules Fitzsimmons.
Oh, she is so lovely.
Yes.
I don't know her personally, but I've seen her, and she just seems like she has a really nice soul as well.
She does.
Is that weird to say? I feel like okay.
No, you're absolutely right. She's a special person. And yeah, I mean, are most of the people who are tuned in actors?
It's all over the place.
All over the place. Okay.
Yeah.
So sometimes, as an actor starting out, it can be hard to make connections in any industry, I guess, that you're in, and to get started. But I used to do this interview show called Katie CHATS with my mom. And we worked together on that. It was very fun, kind of an adventure. And anyway, through that, Jules knew me, and then I came into audition, and then she asked me to start working with her as like a reader and doing everything. So that's how it started. And then you're freelance, and other people, word of mouth, one job at a time. It hopefully work begets work.
For sure.
Yeah.
I just remember you were definitely like a session runner of sorts in audition for me, and you were so positive. And it was so, like, you were just smiling the whole time, and I'm like, okay, I appreciate your smiles, because, again, actor and me, I go, no, thank you. This isn't working. Ooh, let's see. Georgia Chase actress. Hi, Katie. Great to see you. Yes, Jules is amazing, and you are, too. Looking great.
Oh,
see? Look at the love.
Keep it coming. Keep it coming.
Everyone, like a little heart. No praise is too much praise.
Hi, Butch. This is so distracting because it's like every time.
I know. There's so much, it's stimulation nonstop.
Yeah.
But that's what makes it exciting. In case the conversation lulls, then we just look at the chat and go, distractions. So it's good.
Calling people out on stuff.
Yeah. And if people aren't commenting, then we just go through and go, excuse me, do you have a comment? Thank you. I usually make my hubby tune in and be like, where is he? Hey, any thoughts? Okay, cool.
Yes.
But I love that you work with your mom on Katie Chats. I'm like, okay, I wasn't sure the relation. I assumed it was your mom. But then, as I like to greet people before I chat with them, I saw the cutest interview of your parents for My Roommate is an Escort, the thing you do with Trish Renoni, which I love you. I love Trish. And your dad was so cute. because your mom was like so poised and like interview ready, and your dad was just saying things that like, well, I didn't actually know if it was a good idea. And I'm like, oh my God, I love his honesty. My
Awesome.
dad would do the exact same thing. It was great.
Yeah,
It was so cute.
very supportive in very different ways.
Yeah. But I love seeing like I love the fact that when people get interviewed or they just talk, and I just love seeing the support that you have for the Roommates and Escort and for all the other Katie chats. 3,000 people, girl. Oh my God, I'm just getting up to 100 episodes. I'm tired. Like 3,000 people is a lot of people. It's impressive.
Thank you. Thanks.
Like, how is there a specific? Do you just kind of keep? Was there a number you have in mind? Because as I'm like, do I stop at a certain number? Or you just keep talking until people tell you to stop talking.
I think that's a great question. I mean, I think we did. My mom and I did over 3,000 interviews. It was a wonderful way to meet people in the industry, and a lot of my collaborators and friends are people who I met through Katie Chats, and I'm so grateful for that. Also, we fundraised for the web series, and I'm going to say 95% of the funding came from people I had interviewed who were like the reciprocity was very real. That's not why I did it, but it is nice when you can call it in. But I think I've always been a creative person, and I think in this industry we do things to get our name out there and to meet people. Of course, it's so important, but as a creative person, I sometimes felt that I was on the other side of it, always talking to people about their projects, which is amazing, and there's so much to learn. But at, I guess, the 3,000 interview point, I just felt we were getting so many requests, and it was really taking on a life of its own. And I thought, if I want to do the creative, I'm going to have to focus on what I want. And we all have these moments where you have to be real with yourself and just refocus. Sometimes birthdays also do this. And refocus and think, what do I want? And then double down on that. And also, I think in life, you always want to be growing, hopefully, and learning. So I think it's important that, sometimes when you've maximized something I always look and think, okay, I've kind of done this now. What's next? Where can I grow? How could I mix it up a little?
For sure.
Yeah.
Do you find, I know personally when I go on a friend's podcast as the guest, it is terrifying for me. Yeah. I love being the person that's like, hey, I'm going to interview you kind of vibe. But getting interviewed, oh God, no, thank you. I don't like it.
Yeah.
Do you like it though?
I don't mind.
You're good at it. I'm like, I
like talking about myself, back to me.
Are you? Yeah, you're definitely an actor. You're good. Okay.
Yeah, extrovert.
But I think you know what? It actually is important though, because I remember talking to a lot of people about this, and you should be able to talk about yourself. You should be able to pitch yourself, right? That's part of it. Because if you don't have confidence in yourself, then who else is going to vouch for you? As much as people have your back, you have to be your strongest advocate.
And I also think that getting to the point where you're not afraid to tell people what you want or ask people for help, that's really hard. That takes a really long time. I remember even starting as an actor and almost feeling self-conscious of telling people I was an actor. Did you ever feel that way?
Yeah, for sure.
Be self out there in that way, and then at a certain point you're like, well, I have nothing to lose.
There is that stigma of, well, also I found that if I would volunteer that I was an actor, the follow-up question would be, what can I see you in? Yes. And starting out, you go, a student film that I will never see. But
yeah,
it's rough. But also, I don't know. I think now there's so many people that can call themselves creators. It's such a different switch. I find everyone saying they're an actor creator because everyone has a phone and they're putting stuff out there. And I admire that. It's hard.
Yeah, it's nice that equipment is available to everyone for sure.
Were you a child actor? I couldn't find this about. Did you grow up as? Oh no, okay.
No, I grew up in a small town. Um, Nobody in my family's in the industry. So I actually went to university for life sciences. I went to Queens and then I didn't like it. I actually had a weird aha moment where I was in a this is a weird story to tell though, whatever. I was in a biology um, lecture in first year in one of those huge auditoriums, and we had a guest lecturer who was talking about fish and fish spawning. I realize this is super random. And he
So
was
the chat's
so passionate about fish and the intricacies of the patterns and the spawning. And I remember sitting at the back of the class and being like, I don't care about fish or fish spawning, but I was like, I do want to be as passionate about what I do as this guy. And I went from there shortly thereafter and met with guidance and was told them I want to switch to drama. So I switched to drama and psychology. And it was a weird conversation with my parents. I was like, hey guys, I'm dropping out of life sciences. I don't want to be a doctor anymore. I'm going to be an actor. And my parents were like, why? But they were
that's
very supportive. Like as soon as I made the switch, they're like, okay, which I'm so grateful for because not everyone, it's hard. And now having done it, I don't really recommend it because it's challenging unless you have to do
yeah.
it, you know.
It is. I agree with you. I get that notion of my parents always wanted me to have a degree, so I get the degree, and then I'm still like I want to do acting. So I feel as if there's always something in you that like my passion is acting, my passion is creating, and it's so hard to. I felt for me personally, it was really hard to admit that that was my passion.
Mm-hmm.
That like that's what makes me the happiest because it felt weird to say out loud because I'm like, well, I don't know. I have this degree. I feel like I should use it. But it was it's a weird conversation to have, and I love that your parents were supportive because I think having a support system is very necessary. It's a rough industry,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, having people that got your back, it helps.
For sure. And there's definitely sacrifices that come along with it. And also, what's challenging is that it's a nonlinear route
True.
because, you have to sort of trust the process. And if you work hard, something will come of it. But certainly, sometimes you'll have a goal or something you're working towards. And that specific thing doesn't happen, and maybe something else will come from it. So, for example, when we were doing my roommates in Escort, my dream was for that to be a TV show and to be a showrunner. That's something I've always dreamt of doing. And it was optioned by a major network and it was in development. And then that fell through. It just didn't go anywhere, which at the time was so devastating and heartbreaking. And I felt like it was a failure. But then a few years later, I was auditioning for this TV show called Nurses, and for a regular character. And the producers watched the web series, and they loved my performance in the web series, and they loved that I was also a producer. And I got that job 2 years later from that series. So it's interesting because sometimes you think you're on some path or you have some goal and you end up having an outcome that is different, but maybe just as good or maybe even better.
It's
Yeah.
true.
So that's
I
what's kind of fun. It's like nerve wracking, but also exciting.
I feel like it's fun when you get the result, but the process, people are saying, trust the process, love the process. I like when I see the end result, and I go, oh, that's why I did it. Okay, now it's worth it. But I love that. I love that you did one thing, it didn't amount to what you wanted to, but still it paid off in a different way. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's really important for people to hear because it's kind of like people say, keep pushing, keep going. And sometimes it's challenging, but you never know. It's creepy to say you never know who's watching because you never do know nowadays.
Yeah, it's really funny, and you sometimes in the oddest of circumstances you could be pleasantly surprised. So for the web series of all places, it had screened at all these festivals, and the festival where this American network saw it, an executive was at the Hamilton Film Festival, had a family friend in Hamilton. You know, I love the Hamilton Film Festival. This guy Nathan Fleet, who runs it, is incredible. I actually like Hamilton. I think it's very charming, very artsy. Um, anyway, this executive was there just randomly and then reached out to us to like develop it. So it's also interesting because I sometimes find people can be a little elitist or always sometimes only looking for like, oh, it's like TIFF or nothing, or it's Sundance or nothing, or whatever. But I I think, I don't know, you have to be kind of open to different possibilities.
For sure. I always wondered how people choose there's so many festivals.
There's
So
so
how did you choose what to submit to?
it was a mix, I think. Well, there's the whole cost of travel, right? So
True.
as wonderful as it is to do international festivals, which is super exciting and fun, like we could only do so many of those. So we prioritize like local festivals. So in the surrounding area, so we could go because it's always exciting to go and actually meet other filmmakers and be part of that creative community. And then kind of chose different ones in sort of cities like Los Angeles or, you know, Miami, Vancouver. There were a few destinations. Also, you can kind of combine it with like travel. My mom came to Vancouver with me and we like, I don't know, went road bikes through Stanley Park and stuff as well. But, you know, so kind of you just have to.
You got to do Stanley Park. Yeah.
Yeah, got to do it. So, yeah, just a mix.
I know, I'm always curious about that, right? Because I see so many different, and I never know because I just do, I'm like, oh, this sounds good. I'm a very much a sucker for a lot of things. I go, is this legit? Is this just I pay the money and they give me an award and we're cool and like this is my resume? Or is this, will I meet cool people that are creating things? And I don't know. But I think with anything, again, like you said before, you never know what happens. So
Yeah, and certainly any experience is also what you make of it.
for
So,
sure. Yeah.
you know, and also sometimes in Canada, especially, the funding out of Toronto, out of province, is less competitive. Ontario's our most competitive province when we're competing for our public funding, which we're
Right.
so lucky to have. It's an incredible thing that we have in Canada. But Ontario is obviously the most dense, and they have to spread the money throughout the province. So, I mean, well, it's interesting anyway to like meet people from different parts of this country because it's so beautiful, and Canadians are generally awesome.
We are. I
But
know.
you know, if you're out in a different you know, whether you're on the East Coast or the West Coast and you're meeting producers and directors, it's you can always partner with someone out of province to get a project off the ground. And there's so many international co-productions. So I think it's not always about like pitching something. Sometimes it's about forming relationships to like for your future projects as well. So there's always value there,
For sure.
even if you don't win the award of the festival.
You know, when growing up, it's the whole, it's not about winning and you get the participation trophy. I feel like this is the equivalent as an adult. Just
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't actually think I know how you and Trish met. Do I know this origin story? Did I know this? I can't. Trish was on
No,
my podcast too, and I don't remember this, and I feel bad.
no, it's okay. That ran its course, so we don't have to get into it.
That's totally
Yeah.
fine. Oh, okay. No, I love that political. Okay. That's cool. That's cool. I mean, I think like, I resonate to any female that's like creating, or like anyone that identifies as a female that's creating their own stuff, because I guess it's so funny. I don't know if you felt this way growing up, but I always look to like male role models because I know you do stand up comedy and I love comedy. And it's like I would look at Robin Williams and Jim Carrey and like I couldn't think of any female comedians. I know like Carol Burnett, but I couldn't I just couldn't think of anyone that really resonated with me. And so I love that we're this generation of female comedians that are coming up, creating our own stuff, and then supporting each other. And I really do. I appreciate you and anyone that's just kind of there to support. So it's great.
Thank you. Thank you.
It was really more of a comment. I just like rant because I get excited. Yeah. I know this is what it's I don't know how to interview. Like I don't do the mic. Okay. How do you do yes, Joan Rivers, thank you. But I actually worry that Joan Rivers would have been canceled. Like that's I don't know our vibe right now in terms of saying things and cancel culture, but that's a whole other discussion. But I'm very impressed with your mic skills because I watched your Katie chats and I don't know what to do if I were to interview someone and they're next to me. Do I look at the camera? Like what practice do you have with mic skills? This is a serious question because I admire it.
I think, oh man, I don't know. I mean, the most important thing is that you can hear, everyone can be heard. So if you're not loud and you have one mic, you just have to really remember to send it over.
I love you just keep it on yourself the whole time, you know?
Yeah, some people when they're starting forget to do that. So it's been a minute since I did the red carpet thing, but I tried to stay away from yes no questions was one of the things. I would try to ask questions. What was the best part about X, or what was the most like kind of questions that led to a story. I would try to think of a few. I always had this technique or whatever, where any interview I would have a minimum of three questions and specific ones. Like I'd have 3 points that were specific about a person that I knew. And it was interesting because I found that's all I ever needed. Like you don't have to, I mean, it's always good. Like the really Richard Krause, who's an incredible Canadian interviewer and also such a kind soul. I once asked him about this as well, and he generously gave me advice, and he will research everything about the person. So he'll take a day, and if he's interviewing Seth Rogen, he will look at like everything. He'll try to watch everything, and then he just lets the conversation flow, which I think is very cool. Whereas I would do that to an extent, but would just make sure I had a few specific things so I looked like I knew what I was doing.
For sure. But I love that. No, but it's so important when you research someone, and that's what I love about my guests. Because when you're coming on, I'm going to look you up. I'm going to get creepy. I admit it. I'm cool with that. Everyone is fascinating. Like, it is so, you're fascinating, obviously. I'm like watching demos from back in the day. I'm like, oh, that's so cute. You filmed something like in my hood. I go, oh my God, that's a cool place. I should use that setting. That's fun. But I love seeing people's progressions too. I'm like, okay, she did this and now she's on that. Like, it's so encouraging, right? To see like, you started this, you're creating your own content. Now you're like a recurring on nurses, and then you got that Pretty Hard Cases, like that, all these big shows. I'm like, oh, I don't know you that well, but I'm very proud of you. And
thank you.
Good for you. Okay.
It's funny how one thing leads to another, and there's still, I think very few actors are in a position where they're having the luxury to choose exactly what they're doing. It's funny to me sometimes my friends who aren't in the industry will be like, oh, well, you should do a Hollywood movie next, or you should, like, I remember when I started, one of my friends was like, you know what you should do TV. And I was like, yeah, thanks. But a lot of us, I mean, most actors, most creatives were grinding hard, like, we're working as hard as we can, and then we're getting auditions and we're putting ourselves out there, but like we're not deciding when we work. So I have been lucky in terms of work, like in having those opportunities, but then I also have to say it didn't come easy for me at all. I had to, when I moved to Toronto, of course I got an agent. I went door to door, that I had no connections, and then was so frustrated, started interviewing, was so frustrated, stopped interviewing, was so frustrated. I was like, I was getting auditions for waitress number 2, like
not even number 1.
These little roles, and I thought I didn't drop out of Life Sci to do like and a lot of actors have amazing careers with small parts, but I was like, what am I doing with my life? Like at a certain point, I'm like, do I want to be auditioning for one-line roles for the next 50 years? Not really. So then at that point, just out of pure frustration, the web series was created. And then I got my agent at OAZ, who has been a game changer. But it's not like, I feel like I've had to fight for every step of the way. Whereas certainly there are actors who it comes easier for them, and maybe they're more talented than I am. I don't know. It just sometimes, and I think timing is also huge. Like my thing is I kind of have a quirky comedic
I see
thing
that.
thing that I do. That's usually where I book. That's my sweet spot. And a certain type of role has to come along for me to book it.
I was going to make a joke that, okay, this is a serious debate too. I'm like very serious in my fakeness, but you have bangs. And this is a new thing. I'm like, is that why I'm not booking the quirky? Do I need to get the bang? And this is like the actor internal monologue, which I think is hilarious because my husband's like, no, Robyn, it's not the bangs. You need to get better at acting. And I think that's fair. But I'm like, but what if I had the bangs? Would it add to the quirk?
I don't know. And people tell you all kinds of things. I remember an actress telling me, if you have short hair, you'll book more commercials. If you have long hair, you'll book more TV. And I'm like, what? Like, what is this? Yeah. But it actually it is kind of true. Like when you watch commercials now, ever since that conversation, I really look at it. I'm like, yeah, all the like women on commercials have kind of like bobs or like shoulder length. It is, I don't know. It's weird.
It's fun to look at though. It is. Because it's true. As soon as someone points it out, you go, oh yeah, oh, and then I go, oh, but okay. So do I change my look or do I?
And I think also the older you get, and in any profession, when you're young and you're ambitious and hungry, I'll speak for myself. I wrapped my life around the industry. Like I felt I could never book out with my agent. I felt I had to always be available, always kind of sacrificing relationships, friendships, anything like, and I value my relationships and friendships, but I like early on, it was all about the work, and it still is, but for this summer was the first time in a decade I booked out 10 days with my agent and went on a holiday. And that was weirdly a huge moment for me. Like when I sent that email, I was like, wow, I'm not wrapping my life around the industry, because it's amazing, but you can be there for the industry all you want, but when you need it, it's not necessarily there for you. So this balance of working really hard and moving your career forward, but then also taking care of yourself and your loved ones and making sure you're not sacrificing too much on the other side. Have you found that balance difficult?
Oh God, I don't balance. It's very unhealthy. I do the whole I'm gonna work, and then burn out. I haven't found the balance that you have. Mostly, if you look at, it's like 3 lives a week, and then oh no, she's doing them like now not as much. I'm like, yeah, because it's a lot, and I'm tired. It's it's exhausting.
Yeah.
But I think you know what it is for me personally. I feel as though I have to reach that phase of okay, this isn't healthy. Like I have to reach that burnout to kind of know now I need to take a step back. And I think what I've learned, at least especially during COVID, is to actually, like what you said, right? It's to know that like what is actually the priority here. Because if I were to book something tomorrow in this whole keep like endless burnout phase, it wouldn't be effective. So it's kind of like knowing the self-care is so important. And I know a lot of actors are really trying to work on that and take care of themselves. Because like you're only your best, if you're not your best version of yourself, who's gonna want to work with you? And I don't know, I wouldn't want to work with myself at that phase. So it's hard to tell yourself that though, right? Because I think if I book something out, I go, well, what opportunity am I preventing myself from? But you know what? If it's meant to be, it is meant to be. I'm trying to like really wrap my brain around that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just trusting the process, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's super important.
It is. But I love that you took 10 days. Like, of course, rightfully so. You should, and you're going to come back refreshed versus, and again, like if they want you, they'll find a way, right? It's just so, especially when you're starting out, it's so hard to know that and to like, there will be another opportunity, but it's so like when you put so much into the auditions, especially self tapes, when you're not even in the room to see feedback or get a redirect. It's so challenging to just keep putting stuff out there and not hear back. But what I keep, like, if you're getting those auditions, right, it's a good
Yeah,
sign.
it is. And I think ACTRA has really been there for their members, in terms of like last summer when with the COVID auditions, I don't know if you experienced this, but like producers, because they weren't having to rent a studio, the casting studio, for $200 an hour, they weren't mindful of anyone's time. So like all last summer I was getting these auditions that were like 14 pages. Like you're just like, oh, we don't have to worry about the time, so just like I'm like, at a callback, I will learn your movie, but like, please, like, they're going to watch 30 seconds and you spend 3 days learning it and doing your best, and then you never hear it. And that's like, but anyway, actors changed that with the page limits. Thank goodness.
That was smart.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is
Yeah, I
really,
mean, I'm still non-union, but I've heard like the actor changes, and I think it's really important. And I wish there was like some kind of divide for, like, if you're non-union, other than your agent per se, who can have these conversations of like telling you what you should advocate for yourself, especially when there's so many opportunities that you can find yourself online. And for people to know, like, I know I've tried to share things like, hey guys, this is a scam, like they're gonna just take your money, or like this is not okay and you guys should never have to, because there's creepy people out there, like send nudes or something. It's weird. But
you have to be careful. Yeah.
yeah, you have to be. But I think when people, because it's such a great industry when you're doing something in it, but that there's that desperation starting out. So I just hope that people are better at advocating for themselves now, I guess.
My acting, like the woman who I played opposite on Nurses with, Natasha Callis Jordan. I just want to give a shout out to her. You know what was very cool? Because she was not like, she was one of the stars of the show, and my character on the show was her love interest. And I really wasn't sure how that was going to play out, because she's much younger than I. She was like 21, I think, at the time. Natasha, sorry, I'm like, and I was like, because when I was 21, I was very immature and probably not the easiest to work with. And I was like, okay, this is going to be so interesting. And then I like meet this girl, and she was so like inspiring to me, like so mature and kind and professional. And I'm just going to give her a shout out, because
For sure.
she made that experience so memorable.
That character has a mature attitude, I feel.
Ashley, yeah.
Yeah.
She has, like, for someone so young, she has like this grounded maturity that is very rare and very admirable.
This is my favorite thing. So I'm a physiotherapist every now and then, and so I watch this scene with you and the Ashley character, and it was so funny because you two were talking about the patient directly in front of the patient.
Yeah.
And I loved it so much, because on one hand I thought they wouldn't do it, but then I thought, oh my gosh, this actually is the healthcare system. When we talk about the patients right in front of them, we're like, oh, you guys are going to be fine. Actually, they have 2 days to live. Like, it's just not. And it's so, it was, I don't know, I don't think it was meant to be funny, but in my head, I'm like, that's very funny. So I love seeing what works on TV medical wise versus the reality, and how it works. It makes me laugh every time.
The creative liberties.
Oh, of course. Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I think that the medical shows are getting a lot better. I go, okay, yeah, I believe that. I buy it.
Good. It's more authentic. That's great.
Yeah. How do you have to, I find a lot of people are getting better with the wording and like, even I think you used an ultrasound in one of the scenes I watched. I'm like, that was pretty believable. I buy it.
Good, because I find that very challenging. And in terms of any medical terminology, I find it a little bit difficult to memorize, because I'm not familiar with it. So that means a lot. Thank you.
Oh yeah, of course. Well, is there not someone on set to say this is the word, or this is how you would do it?
Yeah, there is. There
Okay.
absolutely is. So there definitely was a lot of help in that regard, but just like the dialogue sometimes, because when you watch any medical drama, it kind of just has to roll off the tongue really easy. So, you're like, what? I was always Googling, what does this mean? What is that? Yeah.
It's, I always wonder if Meredith Grey, who's, what are they, 17 seasons of Grey's Anatomy, could she
Yeah.
just become a doctor now? How much does she know? You know,
You probably,
like she just takes the MCATs. Yeah, I know this one. I got it. We're good. Just,
yeah.
so funny.
Yeah.
That's, I see. Is your, I don't know, is your character coming back in, is there a season 3?
The show has, we don't know.
Okay, okay.
We don't know.
I'm
It's
excited. Okay.
not been like, it's not been said either way.
I find it so interesting that, and people don't know this, like actors don't always know what's going on with their character, right? And then they expect, okay, so what's happening? It's like, I don't know. The writers, no one's telling me.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't know.
Yeah.
And that's
I
okay.
do feel like you want to like butter up the writer. Hey, I want this plot line. Like, can my character?
I mean, I don't know. I've never really done that. I think some actors are more hands-on. I guess because I've produced, I understand how annoying actors can be. And so, like, I mean, in a way, I actually think it's a good idea for any actor to produce just to understand, like, the other side of it. Because
Understand and appreciate, okay?
now, because, like, now when I show up on sets and I look at the trailers and the set deck and food is ready on time. And I'm like, I look at it, I'm like, and I know they have insurance and they've had to deal with union negotiations and
Now there's
tax
COVID,
credit
right?
and all this stuff. And I'm just like, I get that. And I'm just like, I am so happy I do not have to deal with any of that. It gives you a whole level of appreciation. And as a consequence of that, I'm like, when I'm on set, I don't talk too much. I show up on time. I am prepared. I don't eat in my wardrobe.
That's a thing, though. It's a big
Like,
thing.
I try to be reasonably polite to everyone, and then I go home, and that's like it's not there. Like, I'm not, because I just know from the other side, like, you just want everyone to do their job.
And
Yeah.
it's so weird to say, but sometimes I feel as if actors are the least important part of a production because of what goes on behind the scenes. We are important, but there is so much going on behind the scenes that I love that your professional attitude of actually showing up on time, being polite, knowing your stuff. That's huge. And professionalism is so important. And I think people don't know if they have it, or like some people don't understand what professionalism is. And then that really, if they book the role they wanted and they're not professional, like no one's going to want to work with them. So
Yeah, and I do think if you want longevity, especially in Canada, you can't really afford to be difficult, because I was actually talking to someone who was working on a show yesterday, and it finished not too long ago, and the crew turned over 4 times because the lead was so difficult. And I just think, like, if that's your reputation, I'm like, that's terrible. Like, you can't, I don't even know how poorly you'd have to treat people for, like, crew to turn over that much. But it's just, I don't think it's acceptable, and it's just a complete lack of decorum. And
I'm wondering what they could be doing. Again, we don't have to like name or like get specific, but I always wonder, like, we're all human beings, right? We're all trying to do a job, get through it and create something. So it's a shame when there's that uncomfortableness on set that makes people quit. That's, yeah, that's not fun. I was going to ask you if you have any audition tips for people. Like, cause did you book your roles through self-tape now, or are you back in the room?
I've been back in the room a little bit, but mostly still tapes or Zoom.
Okay, okay.
This was a Zoom audition with the casting directors, Sharon Forrest, and then Sherry White, who's the showrunner, was also directing that episode. And yeah, okay. So I get more nervous for sure for in-person auditions or Zoom auditions, like when it's in real time. I have more, I know anxiety is such an overused word, but
I
anxiety.
think it's real. Yeah.
Yeah. But I also notice I do way better in the room or on Zoom auditions because I prepare way more. Like, just out of fear of, I suppose, looking foolish, I will know it cold. I come in with at least one idea, at least one, if not a couple ideas. And then I think it's like a gift when you actually get to perform for someone and get some feedback, as opposed to, and it's a little bit more nerve wracking, but it's a bit more collaborative, which is ultimately, like, I think what's really cool about what we do, because it's just so
Yeah.
creative. But the self tapes, I don't know tips for self tapes. I'm not great at them. I find sometimes I'll hire someone, and then in that case, if it's a big audition, then I'll be very prepared. But sometimes I'll do it with a friend, and I hate to admit that sometimes if it's a friend, I'll waste more of their time. But yeah, I don't know what's harder, because you're like, you look at the script and okay, if it's a Hallmark movie, the tropes, the style, you should have at this point some idea of what to do with it, because they're
Frowning all the time, of course.
they're very similar across the board. But if you're getting something new and you have no idea, you're just doing a shot in the dark and hoping that it's landing. And in that case, like, I find that the self tapes are hard, because you can't really ask questions. I mean, I guess you could ask questions, but they're just kind of putting it out there, and that's challenging. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I wonder too, sometimes they put it out there because they're still not sure, and then they see a tape and they go, oh yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah. It's hard from the actor's perspective, but then on the other hand, like, there's different approaches to the work, and some people try to fit what they think they're looking for, and then other people are just like, I'm just going to do what I do, and if I fit, great, and if I don't, you'll hopefully think of me when you need me. That's tricky. I don't really know. I kind of sometimes do both. But I also, I find when I kind of just do my thing, I have better success.
Well, I mean, you're getting the audition because they want you, right? So
yeah.
It makes sense. It's just hard to remember to be yourself. Like, what do you want me to be?
Yeah, harder said than done. Easier said than done.
Yeah. Like, harder said than done. That'd be great. Saying so many things, and then it's just easier when you actually do it. Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Okay, as a comedian, what do you find resonates with you now, comedy-wise? Because I'm like, I don't know what I find funny nowadays. Things keep changing. I go like dark humor, and then I'm like, sometimes I just want a basic slapstick comedy.
I like female-driven comedy. I mean, I like all kinds of comedy, but like, growing up, some of my favorite comedies are still Home Alone, Mean Girls, like classic kind of comedies.
I love that you said Mean Girls is a classic, and now I'm wondering how old you are, and this is great for me. Okay.
I know. And I also appreciate, which we see a bit, I think, but like family-oriented comedy. Like, John Hughes was obviously very known for sort of family comedies that really were centric around the middle class, like working America. And I think, like, I like those kind of family comedies. I'm not super edgy. And I also sometimes find I'm really sick of just watching Uber. Like, there's a lot of shows about like uber rich people, and I don't really like it.
I mean, the reality, like,
you know what I mean? Like, we live in like a weird time with weird values, not to get all annoying, but I don't know. I think hopefully there's a bit of a resurgence of those sort of like middle class family, normal, good values, like that kind of content. And that's the type of content that I hope to make more of. But yeah, I mean, certainly in Canada right now, I mean, we are seeing it like run the burbs and children ruin everything. Like, actually,
Yeah.
yeah, like it is a thing. But
Yeah, I met someone from Run the Burbs, and she's
yeah,
lovely. Shout out to Julie Noak. Very nice meeting you. But no, that whole, I love the Canadian comedy, and I love the content that's being created. I'm like, yeah, Canada is cool. All right. I feel like Schitt's Creek really helped put us on the map. Oh, there's Canadians that are funny.
yeah,
Yes, we are. Hello.
or Kenny, and yeah, it's been exciting to see so many Canadian producers create great content and creatives. Yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah.
cool.
I met someone, I can't remember her name, so I have names, but from Pretty Hard Cases. I had a chat with her. I don't know if she appreciated it or not, but I think she's one of the leads,
Was,
probably. Yeah, she is. I think it's
was
Meredith. Is that her
okay,
name?
brown hair?
Yes.
Yes, Meredith.
Okay. Good. I
She's
called her Meredith, so that would have
very
been weird.
yeah,
But I was so curious because I love the name Lady Dick so much. And I completely understand why they weren't allowed to use it. But I'm like, should we be allowed to use it? Like, why are we censoring that? I love to see what you can put out there and like where the line is drawn, because like it's so interesting drawing a line at that name, but then seeing other content and I go, the stuff on Netflix, I'm like, I think they would have allowed the title Lady Dicks. I'm just saying. I'm just not
yeah,
trying to start something. Okay.
yeah.
But
Censorship is very real, and I think it's hard and for comedians too, because on one hand, I think sensitivity is good, and we all have to learn, and I understand it. Honestly, I do. But then on the other hand, sometimes it is challenging if you're trying to write comedy or name a show or almost
I
see.
even wonder though, like I don't even know if it's being insensitive, but I
Yeah,
want, like, I tried to, this is so fun. I tried to create something the other day. I like to create, and people didn't know I was joking. And to me, it was so interesting that people thought that I was serious
yeah,
about what was it, like being upset about saying good morning. It was just this whole thing, and it was the way that people are offended and the way they respond to it. And I go, oh my god, everyone is angry, but also passionate. I'm like, oh my god, whew, I don't know what to say anymore. It's a weird
yeah,
moment.
yeah. It's scary, and
Do
everyone's
you
like,
find, like, do you get, when you had comedy, do you find that you would get hate and you go, why you hating?
with the web series, definitely a few people commented that they hated it and it basically ruined their lives. But was at the time I was like, geez, like sorry.
But
Because
also, like, then
no,
just don't watch
watch
it. What?
it. I'm like, also you don't need to watch it. I remember like, yeah, like that internet is just you will
I
hear everything
I
terrible.
just, you
But
know what it is, but it's also, I'm fascinated by the people that take the time to write such negative comments, because I go, first off, like, I used to be upset, but then I go, oh my gosh, thank you for watching my content. You know, like, I
yeah,
appreciate of you, because otherwise it's just out there. So thank
yeah.
you for hating it so much that you felt the need to comment.
And I mean, I guess in a way, that's the goal of art. When you walk by a painting in a museum, if you feel nothing, that's like the worst. Hopefully, you know, the best of times you love it and it maybe has some kind of emotional, it stirs something for you, or you hate it, but rather hate than indifference, you know?
That's what that's gonna be my motto going forward.
Right.
Just kind of create. Well, Katie said, rather hate than indifference. So, here you go.
Well, I once had an acting instructor that said that the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is indifference. And like we think like love and hate are actually very closely related. And like indifference is like when you're really when you're really over something or really over someone, you're not mad at them anymore. You're just like it's almost like if you see an ex and they're just like it's more insulting than if they're mean to you.
I like that. I like that going
Hmm.
forward. It's encouraging, because
Hmm.
you know when you keep creating, because now you put stuff out there and it's like it's terrifying, right? But I admire anyone that's creating and putting stuff out there, because sometimes it resonates, other times it doesn't. But I think part of being a creator is finding your audience and knowing like what characters, or like what your hit is, in a sense, I guess, as well. I
Mhm.
learned that I'm a good Karen, and I can And you are the quirky, well, obviously with the bang. No, I'm not like, I'm going to get bangs. I'm like, I'm quirky. I don't know. Okay. Is there anything you have coming on the works, like creating wise? Oh, wait, leasing. Oh, can we talk?
Yeah,
I don't know. Okay.
with Lise Cormier and Kenton Blythe.
Who just got married. Okay. They're so cute.
Yesterday. Congrats.
Congrats.
Guys, they're like the cutest couple ever. And it's a coming of age story about a woman in her 30s who has to learn to be more authentic and who realigns with her values and what really matters. So yeah, it's good. It's like, what's been interesting is it's very much been a collaboration, and there's pieces of all of us in it. And it's, when we set out on the journey to write a movie, I remember saying, I don't care what it is, I just want it to be truthful. And I think it is very truthful. I think, yeah, we're doing a rewrite right now. I have a literary agent who sent us all these notes. So it's a process, but yeah, it's exciting. It is really, I'm excited to get back to it with their wedding. You know, it's been a busy summer for all of us.
How dare they get married? You're on a
not prioritize this movie. No. But yeah, I think that also writing with people is also challenging, like amazing, but challenging, because you're always, there's bound to be disagreements, because it's essentially your script is based on, not based on your life, but I mean, as writers, we're looking at the world as we understand it and as we know it. And we all come from a different background and a different place. And we grew up in a different family with different family dynamics. So there is, like, for sure some tension, but like, I say this in like a good way, because you don't want a writer's room full of people with the exact same perspective. Then all of your characters are just going to have an entirely same point of view. So it's been fun and interesting. And I think we've all been learning a lot.
I love that. I always want to push for like a Jewish character in it, but like, because my goal in life is to like play the 80-year-old Jewish grandmother. So like I'm starting, and like by the time I'm 80, gonna hit my prime. But yeah. I always like, is there a character, like a certain thing that you always push for when you're writing something?
Usually a girl who's like lost. Like, like a girl who's lost, whose values are misaligned. But I think, yeah, it's usually female. I mean, anything I write, anything that I'm involved in, the protagonist ends up ultimately being a woman around my age. And I think I at some point need to like not do that as a challenge.
I mean, it's like write what you know, right? And that is part of what makes it truthful, I think.
It's true. And the thing is, in your life, you're only ever where you are. Like, actually, I think it's okay. Like, it's interesting because your voice, your experience is good to be the clearest for you in terms of writing and your experience in the world. But also you have like all of your childhood and younger years up until this point to draw on. And, sometimes, and then, you know what, though, there's always inevitably, because I have a close relationship with my mom, there's always inevitably like a kooky mom character as well. That always works its way in. And usually
it's a relatable. Everyone has the kooky relative. Mom. Yeah.
And then also the dad, like my dad is very, hi Adam, there's a high school friend. This is so fun. And kind of like a dad who smooths things over is a very common character in my projects. Like there are definitely common threads for sure. Yeah.
I always worry as a writer that because again, writing what you know, and then someone, I think of someone from my past and I go, that person's a fascinating character. And then they'll realize it was them. And I'll be like, no, I changed the name. Oh,
my mom.
So sweet. I love that your mom has Instagram. I tried to explain Instagram to my parents. It was unsuccessful. They did not understand it. It was great. But explaining it was also like a comedy in and of itself. It was amazing. Like, why
Yeah.
do people care? I go, I don't know.
I
I
don't know.
don't know. I don't
Yeah.
understand our society, but got to do it. So, oh, that's so cute. Okay, oh my gosh, Katie, thank you. I like taking up almost an hour of your time. This is so lovely chatting with you. I'm so proud of you. Again, like I feel as if I know people after creepily stalking them and seeing how far they've come. So I'm just so proud of you and your journey, and I can't wait to see like how far you go. And thank you for coming on my podcast. Thank you everyone for watching. Is there any final shout outs you'd like to give? Any words of wisdom, putting you on the spot?
I don't know. I guess thanks to my mom for putting up.
Oh,
And words of wisdom.
there
I
was a
don't know.
lot of words throughout the
That's
chat. So if there's
fresh.
anything you haven't said, is what I don't want it to feel like I'm cutting you off.
Yeah, I guess advice is is in a way just taking responsibility for yourself and taking control of your life and career and just figuring out what's important to you and what your values are and then realizing it. I think that's super general, but it's also really true. Like just
Yeah.
taking control of,
Mm-hmm.
you know, taking the steps you can, whether it's like paying off, like paying your bills and just like own your shit. Just own it and take care of business. And then also like trust that everything's going to work out because it's probably going to be fine.
I like that.
Yeah.
I that's I feel like words that everyone needs to hear, and it's always hard to remind yourself of this. But yeah, Katie, thank you. You're
Thanks so much.
lovely.
Thank
Oh my
you.
gosh, of course, you were great. Thank you all again for watching, and have a good day.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.